Let's go back in time to opening day here at Universal Studios Florida. Hello, Mam Fam, and welcome to Universal Orlando Resort, where we are spending the day at the original theme park here, Universal Studios Florida. This park opened up 34 years ago, June 7th, 1990, and there's not much left. Like any theme park, Universal Studios Florida has changed greatly since it opened, adding fan favorite things like the Wizarding World of Harry Potter, Revenge of the Mummy, Simpsons, and more, but that also means they've taken away fan favorite things like Jaws the Ride, Back to the Future, and Kongfrontation. Today, we are going to talk about what Universal looked like on opening day and in the early 90s, what you can still do from that opening time, and check out the brand new Tribute store, which is 80s and 90s themed. So I hope you're ready. I hope you're excited. Let's get in there. All right, scooting into Universal Studios Florida, again, the original park here at the Universal Orlando Resort. And Universal Studios Florida came from two things. One, they had seen the success of Universal Studios Hollywood, which opened up much earlier than the parks here in Florida. In fact, Universal Studios Hollywood goes all the way back to 1915, when Universal Pictures founder Carl Laemmle opened up the studio to the public. For 5 cents, you gained access to the production lot where they were actually filming movies, as well as a fried chicken lunch at the commissary, and you were able to see how movie magic was made. Back in those days, movies were silent, so it did not matter that you had thousands of people walking around the movie lot because they could watch it in action. Of course, sound gets added to the movies, and that no longer becomes an option. But with the adaptation of sound stages and technology, they were able to reopen Universal Studios Hollywood in 1964 with the Studio Tram Tour. Studio Tram Tour is actually currently celebrating its 60th anniversary. I did a whole video on that out in Hollywood. Check it out if you want to know more, but it's a lot of fun. But because of that, Universal Studios really focused on the making of movies and going behind the scenes. This is a time before there were documentaries on every channel about how they make things, or YouTube, or special features on DVDs about how that movie magic happened, and Universal Hollywood was really the first one to show the public how this was done. That idea, combined with the success of the Mouse down the road here in Central Florida, led Universal to want to expand their theme parks and come here to Universal Studios Florida, right in the center of Orlando. Now, they partnered with a little fella you may have heard of, Steven Spielberg, to make this park happen, and the theme was to ride the movies. They wanted to put you inside of some of Universal's biggest blockbuster hits, like Jaws, like King Kong, and like E.T., and that's exactly what they did. Speaking of Jaws, we got some Jaws music right now. It's beautiful. Now, like I said, any theme park that's been around for a while is going to evolve. They're going to adapt with what the audience want, what the guests want. So a lot of that kind of behind-the-scenes movie making is no longer a part here at Universal Studios Florida because of things I mentioned earlier, like documentaries, like DVD featurettes, all the access that we have to Hollywood and how they make shows and movies. People didn't necessarily want to see that as much as at the theme park, but they still wanted to immerse themselves in their favorite stories, which is why you lost a lot of the things I'm going to talk about today that kind of featured that behind-the-scenes movie-making information, and you gained a lot more of the kind of ride the movies experiences like Minion Land, like Wizarding World of Harry Potter, like the upcoming DreamWorks Land. Now, here at the entrance of the park, that basically stayed the same, I will say. It was called the front lot back then. Now it's just called the park entrance, but it's always been where you had all your guest services, ticket booths, first aid, etc. All right, have made it into the park, and I gotta give you a little spoiler alert. I've done this style attraction talking about the opening day versus now at Epcot. I've done it at Animal Kingdom. This park is by far the most different. This park has the least things that are still here from opening day. In fact, there's only 3 attractions remaining from all the ones we're going to talk about today. Go ahead and guess if you can guess. I will give you another hint. Only one of them's an actual ride. So there's only 3 things left from opening day besides like restaurants and such. Everything else is newer. So get excited for those. But now we've made it into the park and out of the front lot into the section that was called Now Shooting. And Now Shooting is mostly Minions now. It is also encompassing the area that's like Rip Ride Rockit and the stage, as well as going this way a little bit over towards Transformers. And our first stop today is going to be the Universal Studios store, which, yes, has been here since opening day 34 years ago, and that's because it was part of the production studio tour. And no, I'm not confused in talking about the tram tour at Hollywood again. Universal Studios Florida was also an active movie and TV set. A lot of the areas that we're going to see in like the New York area, those were facades and buildings used for actual movies. They still use Universal Studios Florida as an actual production studio, sometimes for things in the sound stages, sometimes for actual movies like Sharknado 3 that use the theme park as the background. But again, when it first opened, it wasn't using a theme park as a plat, it was using the New York area, etc., to be scenes for movies and TV. And there was about a 20-minute tour you could go on that would take you backstage into some of those sound stages and teach you about the history of making movies, and it ended right here at the Universal Studios store. And now you can just go in there whenever you want to buy your souvenirs. You don't even need to do a tour. And speaking of things they shot here, probably the most famous thing, we can't access it right now, but they did shoot Nickelodeon Studios shows. If you're a 90s kid like me, you probably grew up watching things like Double Dare and Global Guts, and those game shows featuring people from the parks that could go and get chosen on those shows took place back in a building right there. After Nickelodeon Studios, the game show shut down, it became the place of the Blue Man Group, and now they use it for different things like tours, etc. But I know if you're like me, you remember at the end of watching those shows, they would say,
Guts was recorded in front of a live audience in Nickelodeon Studios at Universal Studios, Orlando, Florida.
Now put a pin in the Nickelodeon thing, but be ready to grab it back out in just a second, because right here at Despicable Me Minion Mayhem, originally this was a motion simulator called the Funtastic World of Hanna-Barbera, and it featured Yogi Bear and Hey Boo Boo, as well as characters from the Jetsons, Flintstones, and other beloved cartoons, and it was a wacky, silly adventure with them. Now that did close and become Jimmy Neutron's Nicktoon Blast, hence the Nickelodeon pin, which then eventually also closed and became what we know and love it as today, Despicable Me Minion Mayhem. Now Despicable Me Minion Mayhem was the first time the Minions were introduced here at Universal Studios Florida, and of course now they have their own entire land. But does anyone remember when this attraction was not only a motion simulator, but it was also in 3D? Several years ago, they took away the 3D because guests were getting very, very nauseous on it. So now it's just like a big movie with a moving seat where you're going to go on an adventure with Gru and the Garls and, of course, the Minions. And right across the way here, this was an experience called Alfred Hitchcock, The Art of Making Movies. It was a part 3D movie, part live action show that featured iconic scenes from Alfred Hitchcock's movies. They recreated wonderful things like the birds attacking people from The Birds or the shower scene in Psycho. And speaking of Psycho, it was narrated by Anthony Perkins, who plays Norman Bates in the original. Eventually that was closed and it became Shrek 4D, which I'm sure a lot of people remember. And then most recently it reopened last summer as Illumination's Villain Con Minion Blast, the shooter style attraction where you are trying to join the Vicious Six, the villains from the Despicable Me franchise. I gotta say, I only came to Universal Studios one time as a kid. We were Disney people, and I begged my parents to come to bring me on Jaws, which I've told that traumatic story before. So I really don't remember a lot of the stuff I'm talking about today. Like, I remember Shrek 4D very well, but I don't have any concept of the Alfred Hitchcock experience. So if you do, share your favorite old Universal opening day thing down in the comments, or even better, if you've got pictures, come put them on Discord, because I think that sounds so fascinating to do an Alfred Hitchcock experience. And speaking of things I'm so bummed I have no recollection of, this area right here was called the Boneyard. No, not the Boneyard like the kids' dinosaur-themed play area in Disney's Animal Kingdom. The Boneyard like the movie industry term for kind of like a vehicle and big prop graveyard. So Universal obviously makes a lot of movies, so therefore they have a lot of big props. And on a studio backlight, like again, if you do the tram tour in Hollywood, you'll see the Boneyard, where they will house a lot of big props that don't fit into storage, things like vehicles, machines, big animatronics, etc. And right here, where we have this grassy knoll area in front of Rip Ride Rockit, which also didn't exist, was a big attraction called the Boneyard. And it was a walkthrough attraction where you could see real movie props, featuring things like cars from Casper, the Ecto-1 from Ghostbusters. Eventually they added some of the Jeeps and dinosaurs from Jurassic Park, which did make their way over into Universal's Islands of Adventure when Jurassic Park opened up. You can still see them today. But most regrettably for me, they had a Bruce. That's right, they had one of the sharks used in the Jaws franchise. Now, it said in the Universal Studios opening day map that I was reading that it was from Jaws, but upon further research in the videos I can find, it says it's from Jaws 4, which makes more sense because most of the original Bruces were destroyed. The only one you can see remaining today is in LA at the Academy Awards Museum, the Academy of Motion Pictures Museum. They've restored it. But the fact that you had a Bruce here from Jaws 4, just sitting out here for all to see is amazing. There's only one thing that could make it better, honestly. And that would be to make it a Halloween Horror Nights house. At Halloween Horror Nights 4 in 1994, they made the Boneyard a haunted house, and it was themed to an evacuated insane asylum. Now, I did read that they moved the props out, and this was the only year they did a haunted house here. But in my heart, I love the idea that you could have been going through a haunted house in the same place that Bruce the Shark was sitting. I kind of wish they would have left it in. There may not be anything scarier than like walking through a haunted house and being like, oh, look, the DeLorean, and then being scared. But yeah, this was a haunted house for Horror Nights, but they only did it one time, and then they moved all the props back. But yeah, right here you could have seen Bruce the Shark amongst other very important memorabilia. But I am glad that Universal has maintained that, because they do still have the DeLorean in this park. They've got, like I said, the Jurassic Park cars over in Islands of Adventure. If you go into Horror Makeup Show, which, spoiler alert, we're going to be doing in a little bit, they've got lots of real movie props, and they do the same thing out in Hollywood. And I love that. I love that even though the experience and kind of the theming at the park has changed, I love that you can still see real props from movies that you love, because Universal has so many bangers. And the last attraction in the now shooting section of the park was the Murder, She Wrote Mystery Theater. Yes, that Murder, She Wrote, starring Mrs. Potts herself, Angela Lansbury. This is an interactive show themed to the television show where guests were chosen to be producers of an episode of Murder, She Wrote and learn the process of making a television show, like writing the script and casting. After Murder, She Wrote ended the TV show, they also closed the attraction, and it became the Hercules and Xena Warrior Princess Wizards of the Screen show, featuring, of course, Hercules and Xena the Warrior Princess. Then that eventually closed and became what it is today, which is Transformers The Ride 3D. It's so interesting to think that Mrs. Potts, Hercules, and Optimus Prime, all hanging out, all can call this place home. Moving right along, this section, which is now called New York, was called Production Central. And I'm gonna talk about one that's gonna make some of my Universal OG fans very sad, and I'm sorry, truly, for your loss in this case. Right here, you've got currently Race Through New York starring Jimmy Fallon. But when this opened, it was the Ghostbusters Spooktacular. This was a special effects show featuring, of course, characters from Ghostbusters. Who doesn't love Ghostbusters? I'm pretty sure everyone does. In 1998, this space reopened as Twister Ride It Out, a thrilling attraction themed to the smash hit Twister, starring Helen Hunt and Bill Paxton. That closed in 2015, and in 2017, it reopened as Race Through New York, starring Jimmy Fallon. For some reason, everyone's favorite ride. Sorry, Jimmy, I'm sure you're a very nice guy, but your ride is the worst. It makes me want to throw up so much. But if you are fans of Ghostbusters or Twister, never fear, there are nods to both of them hidden right here. Right here in this window outside of Race Through New York, if you look, there's an ad for Twister Cola. Additionally, hanging in this other window is rumored to be the shirt Bill Paxton wore in the pre-show. I've never been able to confirm if it's the actual shirt or if it's just a nod to it, but that's another Twister Easter egg. Also, fun fact about the Twister ride, Bill Paxton and Helen Hunt hated each other so much, they refused to film it together, which is why they were in two different places, quote-unquote, talking to each other. Kind of like The Rock and Vin Diesel in the later Fast movies. And then if you keep bopping on down closer to the edge of the street here, you've got the Above and Beyond paranormal travel agent, Thomas E. Mott. Of course, paranormal Ghostbusters. Additionally, you have the door here painted with the New York City Fire Department co-chief's name, Michael Moorman. Michael Moorman is the actor who played Winston in the show for Ghostbusters. So, pretty cute little nod there. Also, here's hoping we get a Ghostbusters house at Horror Nights this year. That's a rumor that it could happen. I would love it. Also, because I can't just leave an Easter egg alone. Not only was Michael Moorman the first person hired to be Winston into the show and play that character, he moved his way up to assistant director and then a senior director of entertainment here, and now he works in education at Universal Orlando. So that's cool. It's cool that his name's here for all time. Good for you, Michael. Continuing to bop our way through the New York section, you've got Finnegan's Bar and Grill across the way, an Irish pub. That's been here since opening day. And again, this kind of section where it looks like it could be New York City, this is where they actually would film some of those movies and TV shows. But it's also where one of the most popular and famous Universal attractions that ever has existed lived, the Screen Test Video Adventure. Now, I'm sorry, you probably don't believe that this is what I was referring to when I say it was one of the most popular attractions in Universal's history. But actually, I'm sorry to you because it's not technically an opening day ride. It opened in the fall of 1990, and it existed where the lockers for Revenge of the Mummy are and kind of into this area here. And it was a green screen experience, basically, that at the end of it, you could spend $29.95 to take home the video you created. It later became a preview center for Islands of Adventure, and now it's obviously the lockers for Revenge of the Mummy. And speaking of Revenge of the Mummy, obviously the actual popular attraction in this area sat right here, and that was Kongfrontation. Kongfrontation, presented by Texaco, put you in a cable car as you went over New York City and through the skyline when Ruh-Roh King Kong attacks. As you'd wind through the queue, that would remind you of a New York City subway. You're hearing on the radio that somebody is out there. And then, of course, once you get in the car, that's exactly what happens. And this attraction was state-of-the-art when it opened up because not only was it hanging you, but it also dropped you at certain points as if King Kong had broken the cables and was throwing the cars around. If you watch some of the historical videos and documentaries people have done about this attraction, it's absolutely wild because they had to figure out how to do it correctly without hurting guests the way that they actually hurt executives of the park who broke bones when the attraction was in development and King Kong was shaking the cages. But this is the attraction I personally remember most from the original Universal lineup because for some reason this didn't scare me near as much as Jaws did. And of course, anyone that went on this attraction remembers the moment when you came face to face with the giant King Kong and you breathed in that delicious banana breath. Kongfrontation closed in 2002 to make way for Revenge of the Mummy, which is a very beloved part dark ride, part roller coaster indoor experience themed to the Brendan Fraser Mummy movies. Definitely one of my favorite rides in Universal in any park. So I guess I can't be too mad about the loss of Kong. And if you do want to see a nod to Kong when you're on the attraction, at one point you're going to enter a room full of golden idols as Imhotep is talking to you. On the left-hand side, look amongst those idols up on some shelves and you'll see a gold gorilla. And last stop here in Production Central, Louis' Restaurant. This is another opening day spot. It was advertised, and I quote, as a hit with Mrs. Corleone, and it's no wonder. It serves antipasto, Caesar salad pizza, and Italian delicacy so delicioso they could win an Academy Award. And if you look, fans of The Godfather, you probably heard that not there. You can also see that the proprietor of this restaurant is Louis Corleone. Now, I've eaten at Louis. I've had the pizza here. I generally say that the pizza at Universal is better than quick service pizza at Disney, but worthy of an Academy Award. I think we need to try it again to see if that's true. All right, here's my allegedly Academy Award winning pizza. I went for the veggie super slice. They've also got cheese pepperoni and a chicken Alfredo. These slices are huge, I will say that. That's like 2 of a regular pizza slice if you were to order like a Domino's or Papa John's. But let's see how it tastes. It tastes like mall pizza. Like it tastes like Sparrow, Michael Scott's favorite New York pizzeria. So I guess it is authentic to the area. It tastes like mall pizza. The crust is definitely undercooked. You can see how floppy it is. And so there's not a lot of it needed to cook longer so the crust was firmer. But there's a lot of cheese on here. The vegetables taste pretty fresh. There's good crispness in the onion. The sauce isn't overpowering or on too much, which is good because I don't love red sauce. It is a perfectly fine piece of quick service pizza. Again, I stand by that it's better than puffy pizza at Disney. Is it my favorite quick service food here at Universal? No. I would probably not pick this over fish and chips in the Wizarding World of Harry Potter or a burger at Burger Digs, but if you've got people that want pizza, picky eaters, you're going to enjoy this. Do I think it deserves an Academy Award? No. But you know what? I also thought Barbie should have won Best Picture and it didn't, so do the Academy Awards even matter? The next land on our tour was called On Location. It is now what we would call San Francisco, Diagon Alley, and World Expo. So this was like the whole back left half of the park right here. And our first stop, home today to the family, but originally home to Earthquake, the big one. This was a thrilling attraction based on 1974's movie Earthquake that put you in the middle of the natural disaster. Now, this one is gone but not forgotten in a way because for the 60th anniversary, they brought back the Earthquake section at the Studio Tram Tour in Universal Studios Hollywood, so you could still experience the movie-making special effects that it takes to make an effect like an earthquake in a subway system, which again was part of the experience here. I do like that on the map. It was described as an 8.3 on the Richter scale, but a 10 on the scale of fun. Earthquake closed in 2007, and then in 2008, Disaster, a major motion picture ride starring you, opened up here, which put guests inside a fake movie production with disaster. And they would show you again how different disaster films were made and then super edited all together so you could see the final result. Disaster closed in 2015, and in 2018, everyone's favorite attraction here at Universal Studios Florida, Fast and the Furious Supercharge, opened. And before you come for me, I'm definitely kidding. I know most people do not care for Fast and the Furious Supercharged. I am not one of those people because I love the family, and I know family is very important. I also love all the Fast and Furious movies. Max had Alan and I watch all of them, and they are so ridiculous. I adore how ridiculous those movies are. I adore how ridiculous this ride is. But I do understand if you are not part of the family, why this may not be your favorite and why you might miss Earthquake, because that truly is an awesome experience. Nothing on this list, though, will hit me as hard as the next thing we're going to talk about. Of course, I'm talking about the ride based on the greatest movie of all time, Jaws. And Bruce here is all that's left. Jaws was a gigantic attraction, themed, of course, to 1975's Steven Spielberg smash hit Jaws. It took place in Amity, which is the fictional town that the movie's based on. Amity, as you know, means friendship, and it was taking place the year after Jaws was made. So in this hypothetical universe, Jaws was real. There was really a shark that attacked Amity Island in 1974. In 1975, Hollywood, of course, hears about this heroic police chief of the small town, Chief Martin Brody, and decides to make a Hollywood blockbuster of it, which came out in 1975. You are now visiting the town after the movie Jaws has come out, which is more of a documentary slash blockbuster based on actual events. So when you're going through the queue and weaving around Amity, they're going to refer to people that you recognize from the movie Jaws. They're going to talk about Chief Brody, they're going to talk about Quint, they're going to talk about Hooper, Mayor Vaughn, but all these are real people in their town that Hollywood just capitalized on. And you are going to sail around and go on a tour of Amity to see some of these people's houses and other historic sites, as well as some of the highlights from the events that took place with the shark. But don't worry, the shark has been caught. There's not a thing to worry about. Except, of course, there's another shark. You should have known this would happen. Jaws 2, 3, and the Revenge all exist. But of course, the shark attacks you, starting with that infamous dorsal fin, comes at the boat, you try to hide in the warehouse, the shark comes in there. Eventually, your skipper figures out that they can electrocute the shark like they do at the end of Jaws 2, which is what happened in the attraction. How do I know all this? Is it because I rode this a bunch as a child? No. Despite begging my parents to bring me here at 8 years old because sharks were my favorite animal, I was too scared to actually look on the attraction. I saw the dorsal fin, closed my eyes, wouldn't get back on the ride. The only reason that I actually know what happens in the Jaws ride, I went to Universal Studios Japan last year. That's the only Universal park in the world that still has the Jaws ride. It's essentially a carbon copy of the version here, except for it's obviously in Japanese. But I finally got to live my Jaws dreams 25 years later, and it was amazing, and I cried many, many tears. Also, different shark tangent, who's this? Who's this supposed to be? Because is that Jaws? That's been here for 34 years. So that's not Jaws, because if you've seen Jaws, which I know you all have certainly done it, how could you not? They blow the shark up at the end. Chief Brody, smile, you son of a shark explodes. They do catch a shark and hang it up in Jaws when Mayor Vaughn allows local and out-of-state fishermen to come try for that $3,000 bounty for the shark put up by Mrs. Kittner. Is that going to be cash or check? And they do catch and hang up a shark, but...
A what?
A tiger shark. That's a great white shark. So who's that? That's what I got. I don't know. He's all that's left. So we love him, and I call him Bruce anyway, but he could be an imposter. Bruce, by the way, not just a loving pet nickname I call the shark. A lot of people know that the shark from Jaws the movie was an actual disaster because they tested it in Hollywood in water, but then they actually filmed the movie on the open ocean in the Atlantic Ocean off the coast of Martha's Vineyard, and it went disastrously. Famously, in fact, they made a whole play about it that was recently on Broadway. I went and saw it and got to interview the cast. It was amazing. You can watch that video if you'd like. But Bruce was the name of Steven Spielberg's lawyer, and they nicknamed the shark that. So that's actually an insult to the lawyer. It's also the reason that the shark in Finding Nemo is named Bruce. Now, I know you're thinking that I'm sure the ride went much smoother than the movie, but it did not. Jaws Part of the reason it had to close is it was incredibly hard to maintain. It was incredibly hard for all these mechanics and the water. Universal, despite their best efforts, did not have as much experience with animatronics at this point, so the sharks kept breaking down. At one point, the shark was actually supposed to latch on and bite the boat, and it was literally popping parts of the boat. It was basically a maintenance nightmare as well, and it was closed a lot of the time, especially early on in the beginning, just because of how complex all of this water and all of these mechanics were. Eventually, in 2012, they decided to close Jaws because, again, not only was it a maintenance nightmare, the upkeep was very expensive. It was a huge attraction taking up a ton of space, but also they needed the room to make way for a little franchise called Harry Potter. So basically, one of my favorite things was murdered by a different one of my favorite things. And honestly, I don't know which one I'd rather have. Probably Diagon Alley, if I'm truly being honest, because it's my favorite theme park land in the entire world, and it's absolutely incredible. And I'm very lucky to have been able to go still experience Jaws in Japan. But we lost a beautiful one that day in 2012, and we will always remember Jaws, the ride. In fact, you can remember it a couple of ways when you're walking through the wizarding world of Harry Potter. You can see shark jaws in the back of Mole Pepper's apothecary, which were from the queue. You can see a record outside of the record shop called Here's to Swimming with Bow-Legged Women by the Quint Trio. And my favorite of the mini Jaws Harry Potter nods, back in Nocturne Alley, the Shrunken Heads sing Show Me the Way to Go Home, which is famously sung by the trio aboard the Orca in the film. Now, one thing that does still remain from the area is Chez Alcatraz. As you can see right now, it is under refurbishment. Chez Alcatraz nowadays is a bar where you can get the infamous Shark Attack cocktail. It is very sweet, but it is very fun. However, when it opened, they also serve snacks here, like clam chowder. Currently, as you can see, Chez Alcatraz under a little bit of refurbishment, but don't worry, they have a pop-up bar right here, so you can still get your Ocean Attack cocktail or your Alcatraz double IPA. But once again, I love referring to the original opening day map because I think it's so funny the way they describe some things. And Chez Alcatraz was described as shrimp cocktail, clam chowder, sourdough rolls, and more. So delicious, it's almost a crime. And speaking of dining in the area, both the San Francisco Pastry Company, which is right here, and Lombard's Landing, the seafood sit-down restaurant, both of these locations were opening day. Again, Lombard's is a sit-down restaurant where you can pick up seafood, steak, a little bit nicer, fuller meal if you're looking for that in the park. And the San Francisco Pastry Company's got coffees and pastries. Both of those, again, original. And made it into our next area. This is another big land, and it was called the Cinemagic Center. Now it is the upcoming DreamWorks land and Springfield, home of The Simpsons. It's also home to 2 of the 3 still remaining opening day attractions. One of which we are headed to right meow, and yes, meow was a pun, because it's Animal Actors on Location. Animal Actors on Location is a live show featuring real animals that have been in TV show and movies, and it teaches you about how live animals are used and trained to do stunts. The original map describes the show as thrilled to the animal magnetism of Lassie, Mr. Ed, and the star of Canine as 50 beastly famous stars show you how they pawed and clawed their way to the top with performances that'll leave you howling. Animal Actors on Location obviously still exists today. We're going to go see it right now. And it's basically the same thing. It's showing you how they use animals and how they train animals to do stunts. I actually really like this show because they talk about how a lot of the animals they use are rescues, which I find so sweet that you could go from being a sad puppy or kitty in a Sarah McLachlan ASPCA commercial to being famous and beloved by people worldwide. Before we walk into the theater, though, I do want to point out a few things over this way, which also give a hint to an almost opening day attraction. I talked earlier about how I love Universal for having props from some of their beloved movies, and right here you've got the train from Back to the Future 3, as well as the DeLorean from Back to the Future, which of course means I'm going to mention Back to the Future, the ride, which is located a little bit further down in the Springfield area of the park. Back to the Future, the ride, not quite an opening day attraction. It opens the next year, 1991, on May 2nd, and it was a thrilling attraction based on Back to the Future, starring Doc Brown at the Institute of Future Technology. He's inviting you to go on a test of his 8-passenger DeLorean, and of course, chaos ensues. Unfortunately, we lost Back to the Future in 2007 when it closed to make way for the Simpsons ride. But you can still see the original scenes from the movie if you go to Universal Studios Hollywood. Right now, again, part of that 60th Tram Tour experience, as long as they're not actively filming, you could see the clock tower and where Marty hit that 88 miles an hour. But we're going to see Back to the Future, I'm guessing, in the tribute store, and so many people associate it with OG old school Universal. I felt like I had to mention it. Plus, it is in the map, but it says coming soon. Roads. Where we're going, we don't need roads. And now we're headed to see some animals. Good job. Good boy.
Well, put your feet up, say hi. One of the first things we like to train our dogs is a mark. With this, I can put it anywhere, and Alfred should know exactly where to go. Someone let the pig out. Hey guys, we got a loose pig on
I do think that show's very cute. It's very like cheesy animal puns and jokes, and the dogs like play along with the jokes, but it's really, really cute. You gotta know what you're getting into. It's like 25 minutes sitting down. Who doesn't like dogs? I do think it's not my favorite show. We're going to get to that in a little bit, but I do like this one. And one thing I do like about it a lot is that it's a little bit different every time you see it. One, because they're real animals, so they're a little unpredictable. But two, I've actually seen them do different stunts and show you how different things are made. So if you've seen it before, you may want to check it out again because they might be talking about a different animal stunt or featuring a different animal. Now, we are headed to ride the only remaining ride here from opening day. You probably already know, but we are headed to the E.T. Adventure. And I've said it before, but I'm so glad that this sign is big enough to celebrate how iconic this attraction is. E.T. Adventure has a 34-inch height requirement, and it is going to take you basically through half of it is the last part of the movie E.T., and the other half is a Steven Spielberg fever dream. He's going to introduce the ride, too, which is lovely. But basically, E.T. needs your help getting back to the green planet where he's from because his friends are not doing so well. So you're going to climb aboard a bike, which is going to be enchanted by E.T.'s magic, and fly over, again, scenes from the end of the classic film E.T., and then head to outer space where you're going to go see E.T.'s planet, and it's something. That ride makes me smile and laugh every single time. It's such a classic. And I know a lot of people were worried when they closed the Woody Woodpecker Kid Zone, which is what this area was before, like, very recently, that E.T. Adventure was going to close because they were making DreamWorks Land. But E.T. Adventure is safe. I'm pretty sure it's safe forever. And it's a must-do in this park, absolutely. Speaking of DreamWorks Land, that's the newest land here at Universal. As I'm filming this today, it's technically still in technical rehearsal, which is like a soft open. It officially opens on June 14th. I got a sneak peek of it with Universal a couple of weeks ago, so you should watch that video if you want to check out more, and I'll be back officially when it opens along with all the other new summer stuff coming to do a video, so very excited about that. But for now, we're headed to our last land, our last attraction, and the tribute store. And lastly, we've made it to the final land of the park, Hollywood, which was called Hollywood. Now, 3 of the dining locations in this area were opening days as well. Mel's Drive-In, which is burgers, shakes, fries, chicken tendies, and themed to the film American Graffiti. You've also got Cafe La Bamba, which was described as the original home to stars like Errol Flynn. This scandalous setting is where you'll find 2 of the 1920s hottest spots. Cafe La Bamba with the best fajitas and chimichangas north or south of the border, and the romantic outdoor Garden of Allah where you can toast the golden age of Hollywood with an ice-cold margarita. You can still get Tex-Mex, and there's a walk-up bar at Cafe La Bamba. It's also where the VIP experience for their daytime VIP tour as well as their RIP Halloween Horror Nights tours, gather or have exclusive things. Lastly, Schwab's Pharmacy, which is an old-timey soda fountain, is still around. This is where you can get Haagen-Dazs ice cream as well as Dole Whip, which is always kind of surprising and fun. But most importantly, it's home to Universal's Horror Makeup Show, which is the third and final opening day attraction still around. Now, when this opened, it was called the Phantom of the Opera Horror Makeup Show, and it was described as a gory, gruesome, and grotesque. See what goes into and oozes out of the most mangled, misshapen monsters in the movie history. And it maintains that vibe today. A lot of people don't realize is that Universal's monsters are what saved the studio in the Great Depression. They were able to stay afloat thanks to the original monsters like Dr. Frankenstein's monsters, Wolfman, Creature from the Black Lagoon, Dracula, The Mummy. These things made Universal famous. These types of movies were what allowed them to save money and not go under during the Great Depression like so many studios were doing. And while it's not called the Phantom of the Opera Horror Makeup Show anymore, which I'm sure is a bummer to Alan, it is still about a 20-30 minute show that talks about the history of the monster movie and shows you how they do some of the techniques live. And what I adore about this show, even more than the show itself possibly, is the lobby. If you don't want to watch the show, if you don't want to take time out of your day to sit in the air conditioning and watch a show, or you've seen it before or something, I understand. But make sure you come into the lobby because they have real props from these incredible films that I was just talking about, from the legends of monster movies. You've got things like, look, here's part of Boris Karloff's headpiece from Frankenstein. Those are his heavy boots. You've got prosthetics and makeup from the Wolfman and the Hunchback of Notre Dame, Creature from the Black Lagoon. You quite literally have the real knife from Psycho. Ooh, Jaws. I'm distracted, sorry. It's Quinn's speech. Roll over white. Sorry, this is actually a perfect lead-in because if you want to see some more contemporary movies, they also have props that were actually used in some of Universal's best movies ever, including Jaws, Jurassic Park, Halloween, Chucky, The Grinch. I mean, it's just awesome in here. If you're a pop culture fan, you gotta come in here. Where else can you see a real clever girl? I'm like about to miss the show because I'm watching a clip from Jaws 2. Like I haven't seen this movie 1,000 times. Okay, I can watch this when I get home.
I'm dying! Yay! You said yay! Listen up. All the knives and blades that you're gonna see on the stage or on the screens today, they're all fake, okay? Now this is actually serious, no joking right now. All the knives that you're gonna see are dull like this, or they're plastic like this, or they're dull and plastic like the Kardashians. They're called change-o heads. There's a bunch of these he made for the movie. We were very lucky just to have these two here. I took the latex off of this one so you can see the other structure. This is fiberglass, based on the star of the movie David Naughton. And with the latex here, you can see what it's like when it's activated running on a pneumatic system.
That really is such a fun show, and what I love about it, it's different every time because they do some audience participation, so you never know what's going to happen there. The hosts of the show ad-lib a little bit and make different jokes. They make jokes for the adults. I just love that show. Plus, it's like 30 minutes sitting down in air conditioning, which is perfect during the summer especially, and I'm so glad that that show has been around for 34 plus years. And now, as the grand finale of our adventure today, we are headed into the brand new Tribute store, which is themed to be an 80s mall, and it's full of tons of throwbacks and Easter eggs and nods to some of the movies we've been talking about and beloved movies of Universal's past, so let's go explore. I'm so excited. If you're unfamiliar with the Tribute stores, they are a Universal tradition, and they are far more than what their namesake of store would suggest, because yes, they do sell merchandise, and it's often very cool, fun merchandise, but these are works of art. They are incredibly themed walkthrough experiences with tons of details and Easter eggs, and they change them seasonally with whatever Universal is celebrating. So it'll be Halloween Horror Nights, or it'll be the holidays, it'll be Mardi Gras, and then they like to mix it up for the summer. Last summer, they did a tribute to Jurassic Park since it was the 30th anniversary, and this summer they have done like an 80s, 90s mall situation with 3 different stores inside of it. You've got the Tribute Theater, the Mega Castle Arcade, and Mega Video. But I've heard amazing things from friends that have been already, but I've been trying to spare myself too many spoilers But let's go in there. I'm so excited. Also, as a little bonus game, let's see how many of the extinct attractions, the IP those are based on, we can find in here. I'm thinking it's a lot. Already found at least 2, 3. The more I look at this bulletin board, the more things I find. 4. If you ever want to find Easter eggs, look at a bulletin board. Okay, let's start. We've got Ghostbusters right here, Ghostbusters sign. And then you've got Chef Donkey's Waffles, Duloc's favorite breakfast. And every morning we're making waffles. Obviously, that's part of New DreamWorks Land, but it's also Shrek 4D, which is closed. Let's see what else we got going on. Okay, not a nod to an IP I've talked about, but look, Lost Dog, Contact the Newton Family, a nod to Beethoven. Amazing. 8.3 magnitude earthquake in San Francisco. There's Earthquake. And then you've got shark attacks on 4th of July Beach. That's Jaws. And Giant Ape terrorizes Roosevelt Island tram. There's King Kong. The announcement, the opening of Universal Studios Florida. Birds frequenting the area. There's Alfred Hitchcock Experience. Here's another. Amity Island presents The Stillness in the Water, a seminar with marine biologist Matthew Hooper. That's Richard Dreyfuss's character. Oh my God, I could look at this all day. Tribute Theater, look at what movies they're playing. All 4 of those are former or current attractions, if you count E.T. Haunted House right here, see you in October. Select nights, there's your Horror Nights dates, so there's definitely a Horror Nights nod. And then the last one I'm seeing off the top of my head is this one right here with Gerg the Llama. That is a nod to Greg, who is a Universal Creative Executive, and it's been an inside joke now that they call him Gerg, and they hide him, and Earl the Squirrel, who he's the opening act, it looks like, in every tribute store. Look, there's even a nod to animal actors on location with this pet services flyer. We take care of all pets. Theatrical trick training animal actors. I love it. Oh, and Twister. Twister safety rules. Okay, and it's really hard to see this, but if you look down here, there's ticket stubs for movies. For the movie theater I think we're going to see, I can see Back to the Future, Jaws, and E.T. All right, first stop, we are in Mega Video Rental. It's giving me Blockbuster. I'm remembering a lot of Friday nights in childhood. And obviously there's movie posters for like every movie I've talked about today in here. But let's see what other Easter eggs we can see. First of all, this is Mr. Tape. He is the mascot and I love him. He's very cranky because he wants you to rewind. And he's got lots of little signs in here. But another Easter egg right up here, you've got Slimer and is that a Jaws? Yeah, a copy of Jaws, as well as a copy of Back to the Future and Shrek. And then there's like a little doll there of the guy from Tales from the Crypt who's also been a Horror Nights icon. Here's another fun Easter egg, the Mega Video softball team right here. That's the Universal Creative team behind the store. Love that. Also, this poster right here is for the Mega Movie Parade, which is Universal's new parade debuting in July. Love that. Again, posters and actual VHS cases for all kinds of iconic movies. And then a very nice team member just pointed out that behind the keyboard is the Shrunken Head Beetlejuice action figure. Lots of new really fun Back to the Future merchandise in here. I love the tie-dye shirt. And then I also love Mr. Tape, his different outfits that he's wearing for each of the different movie genres. Man, I am getting Blockbuster flashbacks horde. I love this shirt. I'm there. A purchase will be made, I'm sure, because there's a bunch of Jaws stuff, I bet. But this What the Shrek collection is excellent. Oh my goodness. Not the blocked off restricted section. Luckily, it's just, the janitor's office, which I don't think is what any of us were expecting, but hilarious nonetheless. And I'm not supposed to be here, so. Oh my God, there's so much new Jaws merchandise. Oh no. There's so much. There's Tank. Oh, I like the crop. Look at the sailor hat. I don't need a sailor hat, but do I? I look like I work at Scoops Ahoy, but also I love Jaws. I need another cup I need a shark bite to the leg, but look at this not a Stanley cup that's got Amity Island Shark Tours on it. Or this mug that's got the Jaws on it and Bite Me, fabulous. Or this pint glass that says Greetings from Amity Island and it's got the orca on it, sailing since 1975. Okay, I'm definitely getting this one. This is a must. All right, I'll come back and buy things. Oh wait, look at this t-shirt. Amity Island Shark Tours. Deep Sea Swim Club. Oh my gosh. Universal, you're killing me right now. LOL, I like this sign behind the computer that says Chad called in late, said he saw an alien on a bike. Definitely an ET nod right there. And speaking of ET, there's also a lot of really awesome ET merchandise. Seriously, if you like any of these classic IPs, your wallet's in trouble. All right, so we're moving from the video rental store into the arcade. I'm pretty sure the roller rink / arcade I went to growing up had this exact same carpet. I'm not gonna lie to you, I would put it in my house. I wonder if these games really work. They've got old games in here. I don't think you can actually play. Right off the bat, I'm looking at these posters, and here at Mega Castle Arcade, you've got Laser Dungeon, Choose Thy Fate. Very fun nod to a Halloween Horror Nights house from last year. Dueling Dragons, Choose Thy Fate, which was actually a nod to an original Islands of Adventure attraction, Dueling Dragons, which was closed and replaced by Hagrid's Magical Creatures Motorbike Adventure TM. Very, very fun. You've got some more nods to that with Merlin being in here. Now, I can't decide if this is a nod to Shrek, or I'm thinking it's a nod to Goblin's Feast, which is an original house coming this year to Halloween Horror Nights that Universal recently announced. And if so, I think that's kind of a fun tie-in to tie in old and new Horror Nights. Iconic. Another Gurg the Llama, this time accompanied by Earl the Squirrel. Easter egg, Gurg's Alien Adventure. Are you a bad enough llama to save all the coffee? Wow. Amazing. We've also got an awesome treat case in here with desserts themed to Jaws, Back to the Future, Shrek, and E.T., including Jaws cake pop, Shrek cake pop, Back to the Future macaron, Jaws macaron, E.T. macaron, Shrek macaron, Jaws cake roll, onion cheesecake, Amity Island trifle, E.T. apple, Donkey waffle s'more, Out of Time brownie, Hoverboard cupcake, Fiona Swamp cake pop, E.T. sugar cookie, Jaws sugar cookie, Gingy sugar cookie, banana chocolate fudge, King Kong, Reese's Pieces fudge, E.T. summer fireworks fudge. I'm going to say summer, but also Jaws because it's a 4th of July movie. Another Greg Easter egg with the Today is Your Birthday Greg on the 80s style printer paper. I'm obsessed with that. And then I also love the prizes for the arcade. They're actually things you can buy throughout the tribute store. And now that we've made it through the arcade, we're headed to the theater. Oh my gosh. Oh, there's an orca. There's an orca. I can't even focus on the fact that the clock tower is here or the bike is here because there's an orca. Sorry if you thought I meant killer whale. No, I meant orca, a recreation of Quint's ship from Jaws, which was called the orca because orcas are great white sharks' only predator besides human. Oh my God, amazing. But as amazing as the orca is, which is obviously the best part, you also have the clock tower from Back to the Future up here. You've got Elliot and E.T. up here. You've got New York right here and the Ghostbusters. This is awesome. And then there's a bunch of merchandise in here, as well as a couple photo ops for the 4 movies featured in the theater, including this hat. Is it too much or just enough? You know what I mean? And then as you exit, Earl the Squirrel's star, I hope, coming soon to the Walk of Fame. And the last little Easter egg I noticed here towards the exit, Earl.
Well, friends, that is a wrap at our look at Universal Studios Florida then and now, from opening day in 1990 to its birthday in 2024. Clearly, a lot has changed, but I want to know from you, what is your favorite thing from opening day here at Universal Studios Florida? It can still be here, or it can be an extinct attraction. Definitely let us know. But again, if you've got fun pictures from old school Universal days, jump on display and hang out with the man fam. But in the meantime, friends, it's your rate, review, subscribe, follow us on social, and until next time, friends, I'm Mike, and it has been so magical. Now I'm going to go for a little magic. You'll see it. Bye!